In this short video, I will be showing you how to take your titration data in Excel 2007 and calculate a column that has the slope of the titration curve in it. In a later video, you can learn how to plot your data, your titration curve data, and your slope data. First thing you'll need to do is open up your titration data, which should be saved somewhere on your computer. Just click on this button up at the top left, open, and then locate your data file and double click it. It'll give you this window, just say finish. And there's your data. This is the data that the Spark gave you when you exported your data. It's got a lot of columns that we won't need. Really the only columns that we need are fluid volume, that's the volume of sodium hydroxide added during the titration, and pH. The rest we don't really need. So I will go up here and click the top of this column and just go over to the top right to the delete option and delete that column. You can delete all the columns except for fluid volume and pH. So I'll just delete those. We don't need them, just get them out of our way. There. Now if you look in the fluid volume, you'll notice there's a lot of empty cells, and if you scroll down you'll see that some of them have data and some don't. And so we're going to get rid of all those rows that have no useful data in the fluid volume column. To do that, I'm going to sort the data and put all these empty cells in one place. So I'm going to click over in the corner here and then go up to the data menu. So click on data and then click on the sort button here, and to give you a few options, you want to click my data has headers. The headers are the titles of the columns over here. So I'm going to click my data has headers, and I'm going to have it sort by the first column, the fluid volume, and say OK. And there, all of our data is showing here, and if you scroll way down you can see that all the rows that have nothing in the fluid volume have been put at the bottom. What I'm going to do now is get rid of these rows. So I'm going to click on the first row that has nothing in the fluid volume, and then I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's a lot of points here we don't need. I'm going to hold down the shift button and click on the last one, and that highlights every row that had no data in the fluid volume column. I'll go back to the home menu, click on delete, and deletes all those rows. Now all I'm left with is my useful data, and it's sorted with the lowest fluid volume at the beginning and the highest fluid volume at the end. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a new column that has the slope of the titration curve. And so I'm going to click up the header row here, type in slope, and then I'm going to do a calculation down here. I'm not going to put in numbers or words, I'm going to put in an equation and have it calculate the slope from the fluid volume and the pH. Now remember, the slope of a graph is the change in the y value divided by the change in the x value. So our pH is the y value and our fluid volume is the x value. Because this calculation uses the point before and after the point I'm looking at, I can't do a slope of the first point because there's no point before it. So I'll start here in the second point, and I'm going to click in that cell there. I'm going to type, look up here in this part here, you'll see the equation. I'm going to type an equal, and that tells Excel that I'm going to be putting in an equation here, not a number, not a word, but an equation. Now I know that I'm going to have for the slope the change in my y value divided by the change in my x value. So I'm going to have change in y divided by change in x. So let's go back and put in what the change in y is going to be. The change in y is going to be the pH after this point minus the pH before this point. So to put that in there, I just click on the pH after this point. And you'll see it puts in the name of the cell. It doesn't put the number in, it puts the name of the cell. And I'll type minus. Then I'll click on the Y value before the point. So that B4 minus B2 is the change in the pH value, the change of the Y value. I'm going to do a similar thing for the change in the X value, because the X value is fluid volume. So down in the bottom of the equation, click on this, minus the previous volume. So now I have an equation. The value in this cell will be the pH after that point minus the pH before that point divided by the fluid volume after that point minus the fluid volume before that point. And since I'm happy with my equation, I'll just click on the check mark. And it shows me the calculated slope. I need to do that for every cell here. And because this cell in row 4 will not need B4 and B2. It'll need B5 and B3 because I'm looking at the point after and the point before. So a new equation will be used for every single point. But Excel makes that easy. Just click on the formula you've got and then scroll down to the bottom. There we go. And remember, I'm in column C, so I'm going to go down to column C. I'm going to go down to the next to last point, hold down Shift, and click. And that highlights all the cells from that first cell where I have a formula down to the very bottom. I didn't use the last point because, again, I need to use the point after and the point before, and the last cell doesn't have a point after, so I skipped that one. Now what I can do is I can just tell Excel, okay, take that formula and fill in all these cells with that formula, but adjust, knowing that I'm at a different row, and Excel will do that for me. So I'm going to go over here, way over to the Fill menu, click on that, and I'm going to say Fill Down. It's going to fill that formula down. So click on that, bang. And there's equations in every one of these cells. Look at this cell right here. This has B17 minus B15. So Excel adjusted knowing that this was row 16. And so it shows the B value after and before this point. And that is true all the way down. Now I know that my endpoint was somewhere up in the basic pHs, and here I can, let's look up a little bit. Here's, I see the slope values are getting a little bit higher here, starting to get a little bit higher. And then they reach a maximum here. The maximum value is actually 1. And then they start getting smaller again. And my endpoint is going to be the place in the curve where I reach the highest slope. And so my endpoint is going to be right around here. But we'll look at that when we make plots of our data, which will be in the next video. But now you have fluid volume, pH, and slope for your titration.